Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Shima Radha Madhava ki, Shri Radha Giridhari ki, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. So, today is November 15th, 2019, and we're reading from Srimadbhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 20, verse number 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sa Uttama Shloka Mahan Mukhachuto Bhavat Padam Bhoja Shudhakana Nilai. Smritam Punar Vishmrita Tattva Vartmanam Kuyoginam No Vitaratyalam Varai. Sautama Shloka Mahan Mukhachuto Bhavat Padam Bhoja Shudhakana Nilai. Smritam Punar Vismrita Tattva Vartmanam Kuyoginam No Vitaratyalam Varai. Sa Uttama Shloka Mahan Mukhachuto Bhavat Padam Bhoja Shudhakana Nilai. Smritam Punar Vismrita Tattva Vartmanam Kuyoginam No Vitaratyalam Varai. Please chant. Tama shloka mahan mukhachuto Shloka mahan mukhachuto Padamboja Sudhakana Nilaha Vishmanatattva Vartmanam Yoginam no Vitaradyanat Malai Padamboja Sudhakana Nilaha Sautama Shloka Mahan Mukhachuto Pavat Padam Bhoja Sudhakana Nilaha Yoginam no Vitaradyalam Varai Suttama Shloka Mahan Mukhachuto Bhavat Padam Bhoja Sudhakana Nilaha Vishmata Tattva Vartmanam Word for word, Saha, that. Uttama Shloka, O Lord, who are praised by selected verses. Mahat, of great devotees. Mukha Chutaha, delivered from the mouths. Bhavat, your. Pada Amboja, from the lotus feet. Shudha, of nectar. Kana, particles. Anilaha, soothing breeze. Smritam, remembrance. Punaha, again. Vismrita, forgotten. Tattva, to the truth. Vartmanam, of persons whose path. Ku yoginam, of persons not in the line of devotional service. Naha, of us. Vitarati, restores. Alam, unnecessary. Varai, other benedictions. Translation. My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction, but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is explained in the previous verse that one has to hear glorification of the Lord from the mouth of a pure devotee. This is further explained here. The transcendental vibration from the mouth of a pure devotee is so powerful that it can revive the living entity's memory of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In our material existence, under the influence of illusory Maya, we have almost forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord, exactly like a man sleeping very deeply who forgets his duties. In the Vedas, it is said that every one of us is sleeping under the influence of Maya. We must get up from this slumber and engage in the right service, for thus we can properly utilize the facility of this human form of life. As expressed in a song by Thakur Bhaktivinoda, Lord Chaitanya says, Jiva Jaga, Jiva Jaga. The Lord asks every sleeping living entity to get up and engage in devotional service so that his mission in this human form of life may be fulfilled. This awakening voice comes through the mouth of a pure devotee. A pure devotee always engages in the service of the Lord, taking shelter of his lotus feet, and therefore he has a direct connection with the saffron mercy particles that are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky, the voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. As soon as a sleeping living entity hears the powerful voice emanating from the mouth of a pure devotee, he immediately remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord, although up until that moment he had forgotten everything. For a conditioned soul, therefore, it is very important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord without any material desire, speculative knowledge, or contamination of the modes of material nature. Every one of us is kuyogi because we have engaged in the service of this material world, forgetting our eternal relationship with the Lord as His eternal loving servants. It is our duty to rise from the Kuyoga platform to become Suyogis, perfect mystics. The process of hearing from a pure devotee is recommended in all Vedic scriptures, especially by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One may stay in his position of life. It does not matter what it is, but if one hears from the mouth of a pure devotee, he gradually comes to the understanding of his relationship with the Lord, and thus engages in his loving service, and his life becomes completely perfect. Therefore, this process of hearing from the mouth of a pure devotee is very important for making progress in the line of spiritual understanding. It's pretty amazing purported verse. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karti Vachalam Bhangum Langayate Gurim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So one of the most important themes that I noticed in this verse, it's been actually the past 2 or 3 verses, and the coming also. It's been emphasized a lot on hearing from, particularly from, a purified devotee, but the process of hearing, which obviously is described as the start of devotional service, the first anga. And then I was thinking that why is it so important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee? Why not just any devotee? If the message of Krishna consciousness, if the Bhagavad Purana, if the holy name, if the different incarnations or the different representations of Krishna are completely pure, then why can a sadhana bhakta, or someone who's not necessarily pure in qualification, why is it not as important to hear from them? And then I came to a conclusion that I was listening to a lecture actually by Madhavananda Prabhu, and he was talking about the qualification of a spiritual master, that he simply repeats the message given by his own spiritual master. So that's our whole principle of Guru Parampara. That's just like electricity coming down from one spiritual master to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. There's nothing changed. And Madhavananda Prabhu was saying that Gaur Govinda Maharaj in, I believe it's Embankment of Separation, but one of his books he says that Guru is just like a pipe. So he carries the current of mercy directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from Krishna. He carries it down to give the contents, give the mercy particles, you could say, according to this verse, that are being supplied by the whole parampara, the whole rest of the pipe. But if Guru thinks that I'm the one that's supplying it, if we think that I'm the person that's giving this mercy, I'm the one that's giving this love of God, then it's just like if you cut a section out of the pipe, it breaks it completely. So he's saying it's very important that those that are in positions of spiritual masters, or even just authorities, that we don't have that mistaken idea that I'm the one that's bringing the mercy, bringing the connection. So just like that, the Guru is directly carrying the mercy from the spiritual world. And it was actually interesting. A young Indian man, he was like nice, respectful and everything in his questioning. But myself and Glenn Prabhu were at UCSD yesterday doing a book table, and a young Indian man came up, and this was a Chinese man. This was a different person. Young Chinese man. He came up and he was interested in the books and everything, but he had an interesting question, and he said, basically, in essence, his question was, so you have this Bhagavad Gita, and he knew a little bit about it, background. He says, so it's many thousands of years old, and so how can you know that basically it's a valid translation? How can you know that this Bhagavad Gita that you've got here, which isn't obviously the original Bhagavad Gita in every sense, how do you know that this translation is bona fide? How do you know that it's the validity of it? And I explained that theme of parampara to him, that it's just like you have a perfectly realized spiritual personality who's understood the purports of the Shastra, the purports of the Bhagavad Gita, what it actually means, and applies it. They don't just mentally speculate about it, controls the tongue, controls, all these things, but they actually do it. And then they instruct their students or disciples, and then they instruct theirs, and they instruct theirs, and so on. It's passed down. And he was actually pretty satisfied with that. In the beginning, it was a little bit of not like challenging, but a little bit like, well, answer me this one. So he was quite satisfied with that, because it's a perfect way to pass down knowledge. It's not subject to fault, as long as the parampara is acting according to that system. And another next thing I felt was in the purport, Prabhupada is saying that the living entity, in the verse, the living entity has forgotten their eternal relationship with Krishna, their eternal service with Krishna, to Krishna. And because of that, we're suffering, many varieties of anxieties and miseries in the material world. And it's just like amnesia. It's just like, we have a normal status of life, what we're supposed to be doing, who we really are. And there's a whole, family. The spiritual world isn't just us and Krishna. It's us and Krishna and Radharani and all of, Krishna's different friends and gopis and everyone. So we have many different relationships, always all centered around Krishna. But when we desire to exploit the material energy or enjoy, be separate from Krishna, obviously we have to come to the material world. And it's just like amnesia. It's just like being, sometimes people get in car accidents and then they forget everything. They just can't remember anything. What's my name? Where am I from? Who's my family? Who's my wife? Who's my son? And it causes a lot of disturbance, a lot of stress, anxiety, understandably, for the family, for the relatives, for everyone that knew that person, because that exchange of love, that relationship, is all of a sudden lost. And that's, Prabhupada describes, that's the most, that's the thing that gives the most pleasure. That's where we really find pleasure, is in relationships, in exchange of rasa. But then someone who's in an amnesic state, it's all of a sudden cut off. You just can't relate with that person at all. They have no idea who you are. You're a stranger. All of the emotions, all of the feelings that that one has exchanged and could potentially exchange is completely lost. Any ability to be transferred. And and even when we're free from that amnesic state, it's not that we just become, free of material ignorance and, realize I'm not this body, I'm pure spirit, and that, I have nothing to do with this material world. Just like those that want to merge into Brahman, you can do it, but it doesn't satisfy the soul, because there's not actual engagement in our constitutional position. So there's not that real satisfaction of the self that we're really all searching for. And really nice purport Prabhupada discusses in the first paragraph. He says, at the end of the first, he says, this awakening voice comes through the mouth of a pure devotee. So he's saying, Lord Chaitanya is saying, Jiv Jaga, asking every sleeping, living entity to wake up and engage in devotional service. And that awakening voice, obviously, because most living entities in the material world can't directly hear the voice of Lord Chaitanya. So that awakening voice comes through the mouth of a pure devotee. So this is a very interesting topic also, which Madhavananda Prabhu does discuss again in the same lecture that I was listening to recently. The awakening voice of Krishna, or the whole Guru Parampara, but directly from Krishna. It's coming through Guru, which is in many different forms, Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, and others. But he was saying it's actually very important that the way that we consider or we understand Guru, because there's verses he was quoting. I didn't have time to research on that, because it's coming from him. I have complete faith that it's Shastric. He was quoting it. He's saying that if a person thinks his spiritual master an ordinary human being, or just a teacher, or just a great, even if just a great person, but more or less a conditioned soul, a material personality, then actually all of the mantra, or all of spiritual advancement that one's made, and also the mantra that one's received, and any divine knowledge that one's received also, actually loses all potency, all effect. If one considers the spiritual master an ordinary personality, then basically you get nothing. So it's actually extremely important that we have that understanding of who the spiritual master really is, who he's representing. And the verses he was quoting is very interesting, because it actually says that one shouldn't consider the spiritual master even a representation of Krishna, or a manifestation, but a representative of Krishna. But he should actually consider the spiritual master to be directly Krishna, Sakshat Bhagavan, which is really interesting. Yeah, he said, that's what I didn't have time to research it, but he did say it, and he quotes it and everything, but I didn't have time to write it down. But in the lecture he says that actually the disciple should consider the spiritual master to be directly Krishna manifested before me. That Krishna has sent this personality directly to save me, but our mood should be in that way. I found that really interesting. And also Prabhupada would say in other places that the spiritual master should be seen as the most confidential associate of Krishna also, and respected in that way. And he's been sent kind of just like a lifeguard, or like a lifeguard or coast guard. We're drowning out there in the ocean of material existence, and Krishna sends his representative to Krishna comes to save us in the form of Guru. And that also when Guru speaks, when Guru tries to impart divine knowledge, the disciple should take that it's coming directly from Krishna, as Guru's, the pipe. What he's giving is directly coming from Krishna, his instruction, and it's faultless. It's not subject to material imperfection. That he's old, and so therefore he might have forgotten something, or he looks tired, so he might not be saying exactly what. But even though it may appear externally to be imperfect, we have to be careful not to commit an offense in thinking that it is, but accept that it's Krishna's direct connection with us. And so I thought it would be nice, maybe quickly, maybe we won't sing it, but we could just meditate on the song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that Prabhupada quotes in the purport. And actually most of the purport is completely centered around this song, quite directly, as you'll see. So the first verse is saying Jiva Jago Gora Chanda Bole Kota Nidra Jalmaya Pisa Chida Kole. That Lord Gauranga is calling, wake up sleeping souls, wake up sleeping souls, you have slept so long in the lap of the witch Maya. You came into this world of birth and death, saying, my Lord, I will certainly worship you, but you have forgotten this promise and remained in great ignorance. I've descended just to save you. Except for me, who is your friend? I have brought the medicine to eradicate the disease of illusion. Now pray for this Harinam Mahamantra and take it. Bhaktivinoda fell at the lotus feet of Lord Gauranga, and after begging for the holy name, he received that Mahamantra. So, it's a very nice song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is very much related to exactly everything Prabhupada is saying in this purport. And it also shows the merciful nature of Lord Chaitanya and the Panchatattva. That he says, Tomare loy teami hoinu avatar, I've descended just to save you. I haven't, obviously this, we understand from Chaitanya Charitamrita that there's many reasons Lord Chaitanya descends, but one of the most important is that he descends simply to deliver the conditioned souls from ignorance, from the lap of the witch Maya. And then he says, who else in this world is your friend but me? Because we're thinking that I have so many material connections and they're so important. I have my brothers and my sisters and my mother and my father, and basically that's like our little world. It's like our little bubble, and we think that's everything. And to some extent, we think those connections will be there forever. We think that this is my real family, and they're never gonna go away. I'm never gonna be in a different situation. But Lord Chaitanya is saying, actually, your only real friend is me, because all these living entities, you've had so many connections with millions of different families, millions of different personalities, but where are they to help you now? They're not. They can't really do anything to give you absolute benefit. But Lord Chaitanya comes directly to do that, just to save us. And could speak more on that, but I think we'll move on. So Prabhupada also, it's interesting, I don't know if maybe Balan Prabhu you would know, but because I'm sure this has been discussed before, but I couldn't quite, I didn't have time to search in the commentaries on fourth canto of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or something like that, but in the verse it says Shuddha Kana, which means, or Shuddha Kana Nilai, which means particles of nectar. And it's interesting the way Prabhupada translated it. He says saffron particles. So I had something that I thought when I read that, but have you heard anything in particular, like from the commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or anything like it was interesting, because what I thought was that why, I was thinking, why would Prabhupada use the word saffron? Why would he compare the particles of dust to saffron? And from like a cook's perspective, I was thinking, well, saffron, whatever it comes in touch with, it stains, very strongly, and it bleeds all of the smell and the flavor and the color into what it touches. So then I was thinking that maybe that's the reason that Prabhupada uses the word saffron, the saffron dust of your lotus feet. It carries the aroma of the saffron dust. And that such glorification of your lotus feet is like saffron particles. And there's another verse where it's saying like that it enters into the heart.
So you're referring to the saffron and how, in cooking, it stains, makes it, that particular color and the smell and the taste and everything. It spreads out. So I'm just trying to understand. You're referring to the devotee's, the pure devotee's voice.
Oh, I was just kidding. Yeah.
Like carrying it and affecting the person's consciousness like that with like Krishna, like saturating their mind with Krishna.
Yeah. When the saffron particles enter the heart, it. The heart of is that verse referring to the heart of the conditioned soul? That's what it's saying. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. Sounds good.
Yeah, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you.
Yeah, because sometimes that's what Prabhupada would say, right? We want to try to put Krishna in people's minds where they're not able to forget.
Yeah.
And they go home hearing Hare Krishna. They go on Harinam and they go home hearing Hare Krishna. So it's like you put Krishna in their mind. So that's an interesting observation. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I was thinking that's really quite a beautiful analogy. Prabhupada seems like he's making from that, but
yeah, I mean, we were talking about that yesterday. We were talking about that yesterday in class. How sometimes you just meet somebody, or you go to some house, or this and that, and you go there and you just give a talk and lead a kirtan, and then somehow that inspires people. Like people come to the temple, so it's like you put Krishna in their mind, by the mercy of the spiritual master and all the devotees. You put Krishna there, and then or tried to, but still somehow that inspired them. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I think Mukunda Charna has some.
Wait, so the saffron, the poetic saffron thing, that was coming from where?
Well, that was just completely my.
Okay, it was a poet. Okay.
Prabhupada's translation of.
He used saffron particles. And you were saying it could be. I see.
It says nectar particles, direct Sanskrit.
One thought I had at least in that regard, elsewhere, and I can't think of where it was. Just recently, I was also reading, and Prabhupada was saying, because he's referring to your lotus feet or your lotus face, something like that, and then he'll say saffron because saffron, it's a spice, but it's the part of the flower. So it's the stigma and the styles of the flower. So even a lotus, we generally never see it, but a lotus also has those stigmas. Like you've seen where saffron comes from, like on a flower. It's like in the very middle. There's a purple flower, and then there's the very center has these little styles and their stigmas, whatever, that come and they're bright red. And so you just pick those from the flower. And so it's part of the anatomy of the flower. But lotuses also have that same anatomy. So if anything is a lotus, then it would have saffron dust or whatever. If you're using saffron to refer to the stigmas in the flower, so like the center of the flower. So
Saffron. Sometimes they call it saffron.
yeah, because recently that's why I was thinking, because recently I was also just seeing something, and it looked like Prabhupada was using saffron to refer to a lotus stigmas. And I was like, well, lotus stigmas aren't saffron. Nobody cooks with lotus stigmas. So that's why I was thinking that he's using them interchangeably, like synonymously, like that the stigmas he's calling them saffron.
But in ordinary parlance?
Generally, yeah, like when we say saffron, we always refer to the stigmas of a particular flower, which are very strong and then used in cooking. So I was just saying, when I heard it, I was thinking it's just carrying on the lotus analogy that you're saying your lotus
face.
Your lotus face or feet. What was it again? Your lotus feet. The glorification of your lotus feet. That's the essence. Also, it's the essence. The essence of a flower is in the stigmas. So the saffron dust is the essence of any flower. It's the stigma dust that pollinates it, it's scented, everything.
That makes sense, because it says it carries the aroma of the saffron dust.
Now, where was that place you were reading yourself the book that was talking about?
That I also couldn't find yet, yeah. See, I'm attracting the lowest living entities.
The lotus living entity.
But, so I'm also going to try to find that. But that's why it struck me too, is because I was just thinking that recently that he was using saffron to refer to a lotus.
Yeah.
Something of a lotus, which isn't saffron exactly, by
That's
the way
interesting.
we use it.
And the last thing that I was thinking is, 'cause just recently we went for Harinam Sankirtan here in PB. That was like 2 days ago. And people were like very joyful when they saw us, which is interesting. It's nice because sometimes you have different responses to the Harinam. You know, sometimes people see the Harinam and they're like, they're not in a good mood or something. But they're very receptive and very happy and waving and smiling, all those sorts of things, which is really sweet. And related to this verse, that when the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. I was thinking how nice and how merciful Lord Chaitanya is to bring the Harinam Sankirtan movement, that whether or not they want to hear it, you can't really escape. We're going down the street and chanting and singing so loud that it enters their ears, goes into the heart, and it's stuck there. And whether or not they like it, that seed of devotional service is there, and it may take however long according to how much they associate with Krishna in his different forms. But it's stuck there and they can't get it out. And for many lifetimes they may suffer and suffer and suffer, and then finally they come to devotees, and we see that sometimes people just have a natural inclination. They just walk in the temple and they're like, I'm so interested in this, what is this? And they can take to devotional service. But I was thinking how merciful the Panchatattva are. They're bringing a process that whether or not we want it, whether or not we want to receive the benefit of it, we have to get it. And obviously we can resist, after hearing the kirtan, but that beginning's there no matter what. And another quick thing just on that point, Glenn was finding it very funny when we were at UCSD last time, not this time, that people would be walking by, and I would, if I saw someone that was kind of looking like they're in the modes or they're really suffering, they're just kind of miserable, students, looking all sad, I just yell out like, Govinda, or Gopala, or something like that, and they have no idea what you're saying, but the holy name enters into the ear, enters into the heart, and it's stored there. But I just found that kind of nice, that wherever we go, even if we're not dressed in devotional clothing, even if we're not going directly to preach, we can just very easily give people such an amazing treasure of the holy name, Krishna, just by reciting a few names, Govinda, Gopala, Keshava, and anyone that's walking by benefits from it, even living entities like ants and birds, and very conditioned, but they get such a amazing benefit from hearing it. And so I could go on, but I think we'll stop for any questions or additions or corrections.
Thank you for the thought-provoking lecture. I guess on this note of mercy giving, I wanted to say, how even like broken up parts of holy names we understand, there's just a lot of mercy out there, a lot of ways Krishna's trying to, love the jivas, and then in regards to the forgetfulness, like we know how it's described that at prior to birth we remember these things, but then we forget them, and so I guess it didn't stick, prior to birth, that memory, that our eternal relationship with God, Krishna, like that, didn't stick through childbirth. So those were kind of like comments, but I've got a question regarding the part you were mentioning about the guru. One, it's logical, sounds logical to me. You lose your potency, you lose the mantra, and yeah, I guess it's heavy.
Yeah, it's very
and because I don't know. Then tendency, at least for me, is like sometimes to think ordinarily of my spiritual master, and he also kind of like it's not like he encourages it, but he's not trying to promote like some mystical side, or so it's up to us as students to understand that and live that way. I was just wondering if there was anything else said in that lecture, because oftentimes we hear something fairly strong, but it's in the context of mercy. We were just hearing how merciful Krishna is, so it's another side of mercy, and would it be wrong to understand that statement also as like an encouragement for us to not spoil the mercy? And sometimes we hear about the hellish planet descriptions, etc., and they're kind of like warnings, and I mean, not to be delved on excessively. And so sometimes I've noticed that in lectures, there's a strong statement made, but then there's some kind of balancing statement, countering statement made. And I was wondering if you'd heard that. I don't know, maybe it's just to ease my discomfort, or
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. My understanding, because I've heard other lectures on the same topic, that's an interesting point, that there's different things in Shastra, not only in our particular line, but, karma kanda and different things. There's different provocations put forth, by Krishna in the scriptures, that if you don't do this yajna and on the full moon of this night, then you'll go to hell for 1,000,000 lifetimes, and all these things, which are more or less provocations for people in different modes, or according to their contaminations by the material modes of nature. Like someone who's very materialistic, Krishna will try and get them to engage in a particular way. But my understanding is, in devotional service, when one is on the perfected platform, in other words, when one actually goes back home to the spiritual world, sometimes one considers the spiritual master as a friend. It's like his relationship with the spiritual master can actually be on the friendship platform, not in one reverence. But while we're still in the conditioned state, while we're still not pure, we have to be very careful to not make blunders or commit offenses to the spiritual master. So it is generally recommended that we do remain in that mood, more of like dasya, or in veneration. But there may be aspects of friendship that come up naturally in the relationship, like intimacy. Obviously that needs to be there in any relationship. Intimacy and closeness and revealing one's mind and confidence, and the loving exchanges. But one should still one should still not be like too comfortable around the spiritual master, because then we could get into, we could become, like lazy in our reciprocating with him, and we could commit an offense. So it's a big responsibility for us to have to remember that, because it's not necessarily the spiritual master will remind us, hey, you shouldn't be doing that or something, but it's important for us to remember that. And in that particular lecture, did he say any balancing? No, I believe in that lecture he was, he was saying that, the spiritual master is the disciple's best friend. He's, the life and soul. He's the worshipable object. He's all these things. But the way that we interact with him, the way that we relate to him, should be always in that mood of shishya abhiman, or the mood of a disciple, the mood of a servant, the mood of someone that wants to gain something, be given the gift of Krishna prema from the spiritual master. Because the tendency, he was saying that if we do become too like relaxed or too casual, or then we can actually, because the tendency of the conditioned soul, we can start to think that I'm guru, or I know what's right, and Guru Maharaj is instructing, he's guiding me, but really I know what my inclinations are. So he was saying that in one song from a Vaishnava Acharya, I forget which one, but he was saying that I completely give up the Guru Abhiman, the mentality or the idea that I'm Guru, and I completely surrender that I'll always be your servant, and I'll never consider anything else other than that. But there might be other thoughts if anyone would like to share.
I just wanted to, I felt bad for saying what I said without somewhat backing it up. And I haven't found what I was looking for yet, but, because I was saying that I think the saffron thing is just carrying on the analogy. And all I found so far was in the, what's it called, Pancharatra Pradip. Mm-hmm. It's the wording, like again, the wording they're using is, he should think of the Lord's sitting place as an 8-petaled lotus, effulgent on account of the saffron filaments within its whorl. And it's going. So they're using saffron to describe the filaments, even though generally people wouldn't use saffron to describe it. But
and that was Prabhupada's.
No, that's a verse in the text.
Oh,
translated.
Well, still,
yeah. So I was just thinking, although I like the poet, because there's so many ways we can interpret things nicely and even enhance the point. But I was thinking it could just be carrying on the analogy, because sometimes we'll use the analogy, like it'll be using the lotus analogy, and then it'll refer to something is the petals and something is the stem, or something is the stick. So it could just be that also, at least. Anything else?
One final thing I was thinking. So the verse is saying about how the aroma of the lotus feet, and the transcendental vibration of great devotees carries the aroma of the lotus feet. And then I don't need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. So it's nice that Prabhupada Maharaj is asking for this boon to hear from the devotee. He doesn't want to hear necessarily directly from Krishna. He's not asking, always remain in my mind, always, let me be directly in connection with you. But he's saying, I want to hear from your devotee. Because without the association of devotees, it's very, very difficult to practice Krishna consciousness. Just like one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Bhakti Mula, what is it? Mula Hoya Sadhu Sangha. Bhakti Janma Mula Hoya Sadhu Sangha. Krishna Prema Janma Teno Buddha Mokyanga. Anyway, that association with devotees is it's one of the most important activities, and that even after, and it gives, so association with devotees actually gives birth to bhakti, and that even when one's attained the perfected stage, even when one's love of Krishna has fully awakened, one's reached prema, that still association with devotees is most essential, which brings it back. It's really nice.
I've been noticing a theme recently about, I think Balaram Prabhu was mentioning in the class about qualification of the speaker, and here we've got, yesterday, qualification of the singer, and then this, what you just mentioned brings to mind how, we're trying to get Krishna, but not directly. We want to be the servant of the servant kind of principle. So in that sense, how do you balance, in one sense you're like, we want only to listen, from the pure devotee. At the same time we're not seeking to serve the pure devotee, but we're seeking to serve the servant of Krishna, or like what you're saying, we're not trying to hear from Krishna directly, but we're trying to hear from his devotee. So I was just thinking, how do you, balance those two things, or
That's interesting. Well, one thing I thought was that if we are hearing from devotees that are pure, then we are actually directly hearing from Krishna, because Krishna is fully present with them always. He's always manifested in their heart, he's always manifested in their mind. So, and also they're following strictly the principles of Shastra. They're not deviating from Krishna's words and instructions, so that if we're hearing from devotees that are pure, or even pure and have the qualifications for purity, then we are directly hearing from Krishna, because he's manifesting himself in that way. Just like the principle with Guru, he's a pipe that carries Krishna's mercy. So if we're hearing from Guru, if we're hearing from Guru's different manifestations, Shiksha Guru, then we are actually directly hearing what Krishna has for us to hear. But as a balance, then we have to be careful that not necessarily every devotee is going to be that direct connection to Krishna. So we have to use our intelligence to judge which devotees we think are strictly following Shastra, and also in connection with their spiritual master, in connection with the parampara, so that the teaching isn't distorted, and also to make sure that their purity is intact, so that Krishna will actually manifest instructions, or and speak through them. When we say that, kind of makes it like a weird image, like Krishna is holding like a person as a puppet, like but because on one level we're supposed to see everyone as Guru, everything as Guru, but then again, that means people out on the street doing all sorts of nonsense, we see them as a Guru of what exactly not to do. So we have to be careful who we see as gurus of what we want to follow what we want to do. But, I don't know if we should end here or should we continue? Okay. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.